If our justice system becomes just another tool for politicians to jail other politicians, that's not America anymore. I mean, while this is going on, Mayorkas, of course, he had already been impeached by the House over the invasion. And the Senate, the Democrats did what I encourage, frankly, Republicans to do with the Trump impeachments, which was to shelve them and not even have a trial. And that's what they did with the border invasion that Mayorkas was impeached for. They refused to have a trial on Mayorkas' impeachment over his enabling an invasion like the United States that's never occurred before. And this was my initial clip here on that.
So, another bad day for America today. The Senate dismissed impeachment charges without a trial against Biden Homeland Chief Mayorkas. Real outrage. First time in history I think it's happened. Of course, he was impeached for enabling an invasion of the United States like something we've never seen before. And this is on top of Republicans. It looks like giving up on Biden's impeachment ultimately. When push comes to shove, they probably won't impeach him. And even as Trump faces jail time for non-crimes and harassment like we've never seen before by the Biden regime, the left, and their Democratic allies. Now, Judicial Watch won't give up. We'll keep on with the heavy lifting for the rule of law, the U.S. Constitution. We need to confront, expose, and stop this assault on our sovereignty, our Constitution, and frankly, the very fabric of our nation.
Yeah, and the fails continue as far as I'm concerned. The fails continue. There was this Ukraine foreign aid bill that was passed out of the House today. Speaker Johnson is facing threats to his speakership because of his efforts to, or his willingness to rely on Democrats essentially to run the House and to get bills passed, including, as I note, the full funding of the abuses of Trump. And that was another opportunity to shut down the funding of Jack Smith, cut off federal funding for entities and localities or states that are abusing the civil rights of Donald Trump and others, like up there in New York or in Fulton County, Georgia. Zero interest in doing that. As this is going on in New York, what have Republicans been doing to help Trump? I tell you, if it were Democrats, and I wouldn't blame them for doing this, and there was a similar political prosecution by a Republican prosecutor, they'd have that prosecutor in Congress every other day. And everyone in his office, and anyone who ever talked to him. I don't know if you can hear my chair squeaking, but I can. It's driving me crazy. So our system of government is failing. Our justice system is failing. Now, Judicial Watch, of course, relies greatly on our justice system. I mean, we're in court, hundreds of lawsuits we filed, and we're pursuing probably 75 as we speak right now actively. But we rely on our courts to curtail the abuses of government, and that's what they're supposed to be there for, to restrict abuses by the other branches of government and to defend our civil liberties and make sure that even if you're a defendant, you're there for the right reasons and not for unlawful reasons, meaning political retaliation. They're failing in all respects when it comes to Trump on that. What is it we can do? I think you need to share with your members of Congress and your friends and family and other people that you consider these corruption issues core to your concerns on public policy. I mean, we're not going to have a country that we would recognize as America if we allow this to continue. If our justice system becomes just another tool for politicians to jail other politicians, that's not America anymore. And of course, you should support Judicial Watch because we, again, continue to take a leadership role in confronting and exposing all of this corruption, this abuse of power. Indeed, that's why we've been targeted by Jack Smith, harassed by Jack Smith. That's why the FBI came to my house to intimidate me and retaliate against me and Judicial Watch for our work calling out the corruption in the illicit targeting of Trump. I mean, the election, as I said once, said before, and said again, and will say again, has already been compromised. I mean, I made the point in my big CPAC speech earlier this year. Let's go to that clip. You know, but frankly, I got to begin with some bad news. It's too late. The 2024 election has already been compromised by the Biden Democratic Party's unprecedented prosecutorial assault on the civil rights of President Donald J. Trump. There is a storm front of selective, vindictive, political, and anti-constitutional prosecutions going from Miami up through Fulton County, Georgia, to here in D.C., and of course up into New York. And the front has expanded to other states where lawyers, Republican Party officials, and volunteers are being harassed, sued, disbarred, and prosecuted for exercising their God-given First Amendment and other rights to dispute an election. Yeah, our elections are under assault, and it seems no one here in Washington wants to talk about it. No one here in Washington wants to talk about it. I'd give Ukraine 10 times the money they're asking for if we cut $1 from Jack Smith's budget. I exaggerate, but you get my point, don't you? You can have all the FISA warrants you want if we start putting people in jail. Maybe give the FBI their new headquarters if you defund Alvin Bragg. I mean, those are the sorts of negotiations that should be taking place, but the focus seems to me out of focus in terms of the gravity and the real disruption to the American way we face from our own government's misconduct and the Biden administration's willingness to try to rig the election. Right now, what you see in New York, that's evidence of election interference. That's election rigging. As sure as stuffing ballots. You know, and I'd be remiss if I don't highlight the ongoing effort to rig elections and put their thumb on the scale in the short, medium, and long term by allowing countless millions of foreign nationals to walk across the, well, not even walk across the border. Biden flies them into the United States, these illegal aliens. I know Mike Johnson's under a lot of criticism, but at least gave the appearance of doing something important on this issue. The other day, I had a watch video of his comments with President Trump the other day.
And so what we're going to do is introduce legislation to require that every single person who registers to vote in a federal election must prove that they're an American citizen first. You have to prove it. That will be a new part of the federal law and a very important one. Our bill will establish new safeguards. It'll put us on par, by the way, with virtually every other democracy around the world that also prohibits non-citizen voting. And this is a critical thing for us to do at a very critical time. Our bill also will require states to remove non-citizens from their existing voter rolls. That's a big problem, too. And it will provide access to databases from the Department of Homeland Security and the Social Security Administration to help the states administer this. As the entity that is responsible for regulating federal elections, Congress has this responsibility. We cannot wait for widespread fraud to occur, especially when the threat of fraud is growing with every single illegal immigrant that crosses that border. This is something most Americans are deeply concerned about. The latest poll says 78% of the Americans who are polled say that preventing illegal immigrants from voting in our elections is a top priority. In every place I've gone around the country, whether it's out west, Midwest, Long Island, Deep South, it doesn't matter. Everybody is concerned about this. We have a job.
Now, that bill, again, that's a thumbs up there. That bill is unlikely to pass because Democrats control the Senate and they don't want election integrity, meaning a way to ensure that non-citizens don't vote. But it's important that there be leadership in this area and bills like this are raised because eventually bills, in order to get a bill like that passed, you have to generate support and leadership on it. And that's why it's good and important what Speaker Johnson did there. The left has you believe that citizens can't vote. Well, of course, legally they can't vote. They're not supposed to vote. But there's no check in place to ensure that when someone registers to vote, that they're actually citizens. Meaning you sign the registration form doesn't ask if you're a citizen. It doesn't require proof of citizenship. Wait, it may ask if you're a citizen, but it doesn't require proof of citizenship. And states aren't allowed to require proof of citizenship to vote, at least in federal elections. So the state law is one giant loophole inviting foreign nationals to commit voter fraud with virtually no way of double checking what they're doing. And so it further compromises, especially the large number of foreign nationals here, it further compromises because there are no checks in place. Our elections. And of course, just their mere presence are going to change the apportionment of Congress after the next census, as I've talked about before, and the electors for the presidential electoral college. So places where there are a lot of legal aliens will gain more political power, even if there may be less citizens there, thanks to the Biden border invasion. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.